Good evening. I hope you had a good day today. And we will go one step further in the understanding of humanity. And I want to just repeat shortly what I said until now and bring a new idea to it. We have seen that all is working under a law. And we call it the law of life. And humanity was made to stay on this road. And as long as they would stay on the road, there will be a normal function. And normal function means health. Okay? So inside the law, we are never in a danger to become sick or something should happen. Now we must know that the law can be broken by ourselves or can be broken by others on ourselves. And we know that without breaking the law, there cannot be any suffering. Either the one or the other must break it. So, in the case of Job that we study, we see that the law was broken by whom? By the devil. He was committing a crime on Job. That's why Job was sick. Yes? So, but there must someone break the law if we are getting sick. It's either the outside circumstances in which we are included. It can be an accident, it can be different kind of things, poison, a snake can bite us. I just heard the story of a gentleman, 27 years old. He lives in Australia, and he came into his car and he put his left hand, because they ride on the right side, yes, they have the, and he put his left hand on his seat, and there was the snake, bite him, and because we spoke with the doctor last weekend, they couldn't save him. He died on the biting of that snake. So the poison of the snake is not something that we need, is it? It's not there for us and for our body to live. So there are outside circumstances. We are put there and we are vulnerable because we have a body that can be damaged by outside events. But those are things that are very evident that they are breaking of the laws that we have. But there are other things that show the need that is not sustained. So in a normal function, we would have our needs satisfied. But when we have our physical needs lacking, then we get at the border symptoms. And you know the physical needs that we have. I might do this gentleman a little bit smaller here. It's still there? Okay. And we have the physical needs like water, oxygen, temperature. So it's 96 point? 98.6, okay. Then 0.6 Fahrenheit. So we get some symptoms then when these needs are lacking. We get thirsty, we get hungry, we get sweaty or we freeze, because the body shows us that something is missing there. And that we can understand. And whenever something is missing more than it should, if we go here outside the law, the more we go outside, the more we approach death. Okay? The final thing is death, no function. But outside here we have this function. Is it like this? So this function. So we want to know why we get into this function. This function means disease. And we want to know, why do we have the dysfunction? Why do we have the disease? And we know it can only come by crossing off the border. Yes? No matter by what circumstances, but when the border is crossed, we might have difficulties with the functioning of our body. Now, we all know when we are hungry what we miss. Yes? We all know when we are thirsty what we miss, when it's cold or when we are tired. Yes, my wife stayed home tonight because she said she's very tired. Yeah? So we know when we are tired what to do. But what is it when the spiritual needs are lacking? When love, which comes by thoughts, are not correct. What is the body? How can we know when love is missing? How can we know which symptom comes by law, by the lacking of love? And as I shared to you in the first night, I think my first observation was when I ruled all other outside circumstances out of my patient's diseases, I came to understand it was the way they were thinking in the circumstances they were. And so when you get dizzy, you have a fight. Or you had a fight, or you had another issue. Yes? There is something there when that symptoms come up that you say, okay, what's the body telling? What's missing in the body? And since I could not find any physical item that was missing, I came and said, okay, I find in the thoughts that something is wrong, that damages the body. So with the thoughts, people are outside the law, and so they play the piano, like I said last night, the wrong way. Now, at the beginning, I only could see that I don't find for the physical symptoms a physical cause. I only found a spiritual cause, but I did not know how it worked. But by the time I went through the law and I went to God and I said, okay, I have to know how it working. So one day after, I don't know, 2 years, I don't know exactly the time, the Lord sent me that patient that discovered unto me how it works. This is the story of the lady where my eyes were open. I always share this story because it's a very simple, everyone can relate to it, to see that can do the sickness. This lady is in her beginning of her 30s, so she's a young lady, and she comes to me because she has severe headaches. And she has these headaches for 2 weeks. Her primary doctor took care for the first need, for the first thing, but it didn't work. So then he sent it to me as an ENT to look at her sinuses, to see what's going on there. And of course, I looked and I didn't find anything. But she was looking very painful in her face, so I said, okay, she might have something going on in her brain, so I sent her to make a CT scan. Yes, so that I am sure she has no tumor, no bleeding. So she went that day as an urgent care patient, and she came back the same day with the CT scan. And on the CT scan, how much pain could we see on it? Nothing. I couldn't see a sinusitis. I couldn't see a bleeding. I couldn't see a tumor. But does she has the pain or not? Yes. So could I tell her, after I see the CT scan, young lady, I think that you imagine your own pain. Go home, you have nothing. Would that be a good doctor? No. Because I know, is the pain spiritual or physical? Pain is always physical, because who makes the pain? The body. Who makes the music? It's through the body. Okay? So in the body we see that something is wrong. Her body, and that's the place in her limbic system, it's here in her center of the brain. There are some chemicals done that come up here to the cortex, and at a certain place they make a change of chemistry, and that change of chemistry gives the spirit the information, this is painful. The spirit feels the pain, but the pain is generated through the body. Now the pain is always physical, and physical things are always absolute. They are there. Yes? So now I have to find out what makes the pain. We know that there is no effect without a cause. And I want to know what makes the pain. And so the only thing I have to ask her, what happened 2 weeks ago? She was not beaten. She didn't eat and drink. She didn't had any major changes in her lifestyle, so that you could say, okay, that's the cause. But she said, 2 weeks ago, I find out that my boyfriend had betrayed me. I am with him now for 1 year. She moved down from North Germany to South, and she says now after 1 year, he is betraying me. Now this happened exactly a little bit before she got the headache. Yeah? You know how fast headaches come after a stress point? It can come in a few hours, or even sometimes minutes. I usually when I get headache, I get it in a few hours after I got angry. Yes? And when the headache comes, I say, what did this? And and then you remember. Because you get maybe angry so easily, you don't remember it because it's something that is there in your life daily. But when the headache comes, you understand that's physical. That shows you that thing. And this headache doesn't go away even though she takes medication. And you know from the first story, when you have something in your mind, your body doesn't keep silence. And so I asked her about the story with her boyfriend. Now, let's look to the way she was thinking in her spirit, in her mind, before she knew what was happening. Let's look to the thoughts. Here up in the spirit we have thoughts. What kind of thoughts did this lady have before she knew what he would do? Well, how was she thinking towards him? she had, we could say, good thought or loving thoughts. And I would call loving thoughts or good thoughts free thoughts. Okay? When the spirit is free, he thinketh what he wants. And that will ever make that damage to his brain? Would it ever call with headaches if the spirit is free? You will never find that. When our spirit thinketh free thoughts, loving thoughts, kind thoughts, he cannot damage his body. No matter if the thoughts are morally good or morally wrong. Because you see, the boyfriend didn't get the headache. Why not? Yes? Because he didn't do it out of a stress. But now, she hears the news. The news comes from outside here, and she becomes conscious about it. And now she needs to work with that news. And what changes now in her spirit? The way she thinks towards him. How is she thinking towards him now? Yeah, you say it. She is angry. She has revenge thoughts. And she has some friends at her business where she works. And of course, when you're full of pain, you feel the need to share your pain. And then she tells that to her friends there. And what do they say? Yeah, they don't say, oh, please have more loving thoughts towards him. They would just, yes, go on him. So how are these kind of thoughts when you are in revenge or angry? Are those free thoughts or unfree thoughts, so call them? So unfree or in bondage, you are a captive. Of whom? Of your own. A captive of your own thoughts. Because someone else does something wrong, you get headache. Is that fair? Is it? No. And no, it's not fair. Now that is the next question. Is this lady thinking on purpose or willfully, or is she not able to think differently? Now we have seen that the emotions come after this. But why do you think the lady is, when she was thinking on this side, you see, loving thoughts, was she free then? Now, you know, these are questions I understand when you answer like this, but I want to prove you she's never free. On this side, where she has loving thoughts, she is the same captive as on the other side, but captivity is not known. You see, I found out in medicine that we are really in need of a Savior who gets us away from captivity. Because she does not think this kind of thoughts because she wants to think them. She must think them. Yes? The first thing that I observed in the piano player, the spirit, is that he's a captive. And he's a captive by birth. And whenever certain bad things happen, he takes himself captive through his own action, and he does not only bring his body into a need, but he brings his own existence into a need. And it is not by choice. That's hard for us sometimes to understand. You see, when Jesus spoke to the Jews that were believing on him in John 8, he said, if you follow my words, what would you see? Maybe we read it. Sometimes it's good to read Bible verses. Yeah. It's John 8, starting from 31. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed. You see, they had faith, but they had to follow him. And what would happen when they would follow him and would continue in his word? What does that mean, that they could continue in his word? They would obeying, they were doing his word. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So get that. Whenever you are in bondage, you must believe a lie. Whenever your spirit is in bondage, you must believe a lie. Because when he would believe the truth, what is the truth making the spirit? Free. You see, the body cannot be in bondage because he's just a piano. Yes? It's when the spirit is in a lie, he is not free. So this lady is not free, and her unfreedom makes her headache so that she might recognize that she is in prison. Now, how did the Jews answer when he said them that they should get free? They answered him, we be Abraham's seed and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, ye shall be made free? Jesus answered them, verily, verily. And when he says verily, verily, that's something without change. Very, very, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the slave of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house, so the slave of sin cannot be in the house of God. But the Son abideth forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. I'll tell you another story just recently, not long ago. This happened in my practice. There's a Christian lady came, and I think it happened about 4 years before she came to me. And her body was doing some symptoms, some ringing in the ears and other things. And she comes, and of course I explore her situation, her spiritual way to be. And she explains to me, she says, I was married 46 years to my husband. And we were Christians and in a Christian community and in a Christian church, and we were marriage counselor for many years. Until 4 years ago, there came a lady into the church that was 38 years younger than my husband. And she sits beneath him in the church. And so they fell in love because the lady likes old men. We don't put the question if old men like young ladies. But obviously, after 46 of marriage, this couple gets divorced. And the man marries the 38-year younger girl. So he's in his 70s and she's 32. And now, tell me, is this lady, which is in her almost 70 she is she happy? Is she free? Is she free? But she's maybe for 30 years in the church. Shouldn't you learn in the church to get free? Should you? I think so, because that's what Jesus says here. If ye are you become my disciples indeed, if you keep my words, that is the law, then you shall know the truth, and the truth sets you free. And I am, Jesus said, the truth, way, the life. So everyone who gets to know me will be able to put that into practice and will be free. Now, put yourself in the lady's state. Would you just think nicely about your husband if he, poor guy, goes with this young lady? Would you just have compassion with him and say, oh, poor man? Would you do that? Well, I don't. You might think that I have to ask your wife for this. Don't say it, because it might happen, and then you get into trouble. Because we don't know ourselves. Don't ever trust yourself. You see, I came once home. One day I came home, and I gave a marriage counsel on the phone, and I said to that couple, or I said to each one of them, I said, look, whenever you get upset or dissatisfied with your husband, I said to the lady, you are wrong. And I said to the husband, whenever you get upset and dissatisfied with your wife, you must be wrong. Something is wrong in you. Because I took this Bible verse. If you are getting dissatisfied with your partners, you are free or in bondage? So if you're in bondage, something must be wrong in your way of thinking. And so I finished the conversation, and I had a few miles to be home. And I said to myself, wow, that was a good counseling. And it was the first time that I said this, on principle-based. And I was thinking, is my wife ever possible to upset me? And I was searching and searching and searching, and I didn't find anything. I said, wow, my wife will never be able to dissatisfy me. How do you feel then? How do you feel? You just in heaven. I mean, I came home. I was very happy to come home. And I packed my stuff out because I was gone for the weekend. My wife took the laundry and went up to do her duties, like women nicely do. And I go into the bedroom, and I look up our house, when we have the money at house, the house portfolio or whatever. Look for the cash, and I look into that portfolio, and I see that there is a certain amount missing. Now you must know my wife has the same access to everything. It was not the issue that something was missing. But I was remembering that about 10 days ago, my wife came to me and said, there is something in the offering, in sale, so we need this. And what is the husband's answer generally? We have no need for this. And we are almost always, right. We don't need this. But you know how women are? You think they have got it when you say it once, we don't need it. And I appreciate the strong will of women. If it's on the right path, that's very fine. That's on the wrong. Like in man, the same. But I know my wife for over 34 years now. And so suddenly something dawned into my spirit that I thought, you see, you told her you don't need it. But in your back, she's still going to get it. Now, what happened with my feet, with my piano? I was just rising up from the bed. And you go now free? No, free. But on the door out of the room, there is knocking someone on my conscience that says, what would it be to deal with this issue tomorrow? There are certain things you must deal now. You know, when you are free, you can deal with them tomorrow. But when you're not free, you must deal with them now. And there might be sometimes things that even though you are free, you must deal with them now. Yes, but just take the point. When you're driven, when you're drawn, something is wrong. So I go out. I don't listen to the conscious voice. I go out and I don't find my wife downstairs, so I cry, honey, where are you? And I recognize on my voice, that's not a loving voice. You know your voice, you cannot handle consciously. You can consciously only the tone, the volume you can handle, but not the type of tone. That's your heart tone. Yeah? And I recognize it, and I get my second chance to become free. But even the second chance I did not take, because I said, Lord, I will do it softly. And I did it. My wife knows me so well, and your wife knows you. She immediately knows, I don't know how, on the voice or just looking to me, that it is not love that comes out of me. The piano is not in God. The piano now plays the devil's music. And how is she reacting? Does she say, oh yes, welcome? No. She reacts going back. So that night I did all mistakes I could do because I was in bondage. But you see, I had two opportunities to get free. If I would have taken the first, I would have been very good. And even if I had taken the second, I would have avoided all those things and would handle the things tomorrow. And in my prayer time, God will have made me free to know how to think. So this lady, coming back to the story, she has this husband for 46 years. And in Germany, when you're divorced, the pension gets split. And the one that has more pension, that has more retirement, must share it with the one that has less. So she was the one that worked more than him the whole life, and now she must finance, that was her word, I'll now finance his happiness. Now, did she tell it out of love? She was upset. But she is not thinking this because she wants to. She thinks it because she does not know that she's in bondage. She's in bondage to whom? What would she do with her husband if she could? What would she do with that young lady if she could? Yeah? So her physical body shows that she is not free. And let me know this point very clear. None of us are making ourselves sick because we want to, or because we have a choice. The choice comes only when we are getting free. Then I had in my story 2 choices to get free. I still did it because I did not listen. But I could say I'm advanced in thinking. Generally, we are not controlling ourselves, do we? When others are doing something wrong, our volcano is erupting. Yes? And we get the damage ourselves in our own body. We get the headache, we get the dizziness, I can tell you so many stories that you see the point that disease in most cases come because others are doing something wrong. Because you don't know how to judge the deed of the other one. And so, after I discovered that the man needs love, after I discovered that he has a spirit, the piano is played by the spirit because by law it's not other possible, then I discovered that the piano player has a general mistake in the way he analyzes news. He analyzes what others are doing. Let me see and explain to you what I found as the general mistake that every human spirit has. No exception. And this, you will see, is not seen by you as a mistake, but as the truth. Now, how can I convince you that something is a lie that you believe when you are convinced it's the truth? Is it easy? Was it easy for Jesus to convince the Jewish people that rebelled and said, huh? We in bondage? Was it easy to convince them? No, they didn't believe him. But he tried to. He said, you see, you want to kill me. Are you free? You're the servant of the one. And he called them the children of the devil. So, what is that what makes us sick, but we don't think it is a lie, what we believe? So, I could only find it out that it is not truth, what we believe. What we all believe is the truth. Because the body gets sick by it in the moment of a stress point. If we would not have the stress point, we wouldn't see that we are in bondage. But the bondage only comes out, that we realize it, when something goes wrong into our life. So we have here our body, and we have seen the body has 2 needs. He needs chemistry and he needs electricity. The one comes through the blood vessels and the other comes through the nerves. So the chemistry and the electricity must come by law from where? From outside. And they must have a way to enter the body. So we have here, we take the stomach. And what would it put in the stomach? We put food. There. Food is from outside, and then we have to put it in, and then it becomes chemistry, and through the blood it is dispersed to all the body. And how does the electricity come to the body? It comes through the spirit, and he does not eat apples or persimmons. He eats love or faithfulness. In this case it Is she faithful to him or not? So, the needs must always be outside. They must have a way to enter. And now we have to look to the three most important questions. The first questions we know, from where do I need to take them? I need to take them from outside. Love and food is not in us, even though we think sometimes love is in us. But we will see that that's a big mistake. Then, the question is, who must satisfy the need and how? If we answer these two questions correctly, we are fine. So, we look first to the physical. Who is responsible that my body gets the right food? Who is responsible? It's me. How much percent am I responsible? 100%. So it's me. And now the question is, how do I satisfy my need for food? By what action? Eating. What is eating towards the body? Taking or giving? Towards the body. When I eat, I give something to the body. Okay? And what do I do before I give? Can we eat something that we didn't take before? No, we need to take the apple from the tree or the persimmon, and then we give it to the body, and then it goes its way. So how is it fulfilled? I take to give. That's how everything we will see is the bottom line of the law of life. Now we come to the other side. We come to the love side. So who's responsible that my spirit has enough love? Pardon? So who's responsible? Me or others? Pardon? I didn't see it. Some say. So, you see, can we unite ourselves on this point? Can we get united? Why are we not united? Like at the food. No one protested at the food. Why? You see, spiritual things are subjective. Yes? Everyone can think like he wants. But you see, since the process of this is in our heart, we are not aware of it. So, let's look to it. How would it be best that how would it, if you would make the man, how would you make him that he should be self-responsible for how much love he has or not? Would you make him the same way like with food, that he should govern his life himself? What would better be? What would be better? To say here, who is responsible that I have enough love? To say me? Or would it be better to say others? What would be better? I mean, reasonable. Is anyone here that says it would be better if others? I mean, be courageous. If you think others, it's better, then we discuss it. Yeah? Because if it's me, then it's very good. So, Let's look to it if it's me. How would it sound? How would I satisfy my need for love and for electricity to the body? And we saw from the picture, from the case, when you have loving thoughts, how much danger is that for your brain, for your nervous system? How much do you feel bad when you think lovingly? Never. You see, you can have loving thoughts to throw on your husband and it will never hurt you. But can you? No. Or on your wife? Can you when she just spends the money for nothing? Can you? Yes, he can. This gentleman is almost in heaven. He can. Yeah? So understand, it's when we can have always loving thoughts, we would be never in danger to ever have headaches, except by having a heat, or who knows, the sun might be too hard on us. But to have loving thoughts would never do wrong electricity to our nervous system. What are loving thoughts towards the body? Giving or taking? Giving. So when you give loving thoughts to your husband or to your wife, you actually give those loving thoughts to whom? To yourself. No, the Bible is very clear. The more you love others, the better you're off. Your body will have no symptom because you love. As long as you have loving thoughts, you give those thoughts to others, it makes your life the best electricity possible. But now the question is, where do I take the loving thoughts when the others are doing the wrong? So then I would need to take from someone the loving thoughts, and then I could love even the one that, poor guy, goes with the 30-year-old younger lady. Whom would you pity? Him or her? Oh, you said exactly the error of the mind. We pity the one that doesn't do wrong, and we judge the one that does wrong, instead of pitying the one who does the wrong and not pitying the lady because she has no need for pity. Yes? He's in no need of pity. Nothing happened to her. She didn't do wrong. He went off. So why should you pity her? Whom do you think Jesus would have pitied? Him. He would say, okay, he would take to talk to her and said, what can we do to help him? I already helped you to give him the half of your rent, your pension, you know. So what can you do more? You see, it's not the way we think, is it? No. You know, and this is exactly what the Bible says conversion is. Think different. Think different. Because straight and correct thinking would save us all our trouble when others are doing wrong. But we have this deception in us that says to us something differently. So we say here it is take to give. And so how many people are involved in this actions? How many? Only me. You see, take and give are only my actions. So Why bother when the husband goes with the 30-year younger? Does he bring me into a need? Does he bring me into a difficult situation? It only brings me into a difficult situation because we have a deception in our heart, in our subconscious, that we even believe is not a deception, but all books say it is true. All psychological books, as long as I know, I haven't read all, but I suppose all, say that we need to be loved. Do you need to be loved? Now that you say amen, you said something. You said amen to a truth or to a lie? Now you see, how can we know if to be loved? Because you know, all human beings think they need to be loved. Everyone. Every psychology book says you need to be loved. Now, whose action is to be loved? Whose action? Mine? It's always the act of another. So, what can you do about if your husband after 46 years wants to go off? You can pray for him, you wish him good luck. Yes? No? We wouldn't do that, would we? Yeah? Because we would get into despair, but for whom? For him or for us? It would be for ourselves, because we think we miss his love. That's the only thing why we go after him. We think the act of another one can do us good or evil. And now we must see, is that according to the law? You see, I saw, this was one of my first observations in my practice, that people get into trouble when others do not love them. And I can tell you many stories. People cannot eat anymore because the husband, you know, the lady came 3 days, she couldn't eat for 3 days. She was married for 2 years. And she said in their honeymoon, already she wanted to kill herself when she saw what husband she took. She took the husband, and he didn't want to go into honeymoon. You know, husbands are very safe persons. They want to save money. Yeah? And so they got some money, but finally they decided to go into honeymoon. 1 week. And the good man took 3 nights on the beach because there it's expensive, and 4 nights in the city because it's not so expensive. You know, just to cover, give her something, and then he didn't take 3 meals a day, he just booked for 2 meals a day. And then of course the young lady now in her honeymoon dresses nicely, wants to go out, dining, and says, oh, shall we go out? And says, oh yes, we go into grocery stores and buy something. Now you already sympathize with this gentleman, do you? You like him? He has his full sympathy. He has your full sympathy, has he? And neither I got my sympathy to him, but when she told me the story, I saw myself. So, this event happened exactly on our 30th anniversary. She was my first patient at my practice. And on the way to my practice, I was asking the Lord and said, what shall I buy to my wife for the anniversary. You know, women need something for anniversary, do they? Do husbands need something? No, I don't need that. But women need that. Yeah, women need that. And since I'm always low on money, I was thinking, Lord, she likes flowers, but she likes the roses. Now, the roses, it's not the season of the roses, but you get always roses. And so I thought, well, one rose, if I take 30 roses, it costs me about $4 or €4 rose. That will come to 120 euro. So that's for an anniversary. Too much, or? So I was thinking about this, asking the Lord what to do. And so I come into my office, and here is the first patient. And she cannot eat for 3 days. And she just starts to tell me the story, and I see myself in this gentleman. And the moment I see myself, do I like me? No, I hate me. I said, in the moment I saw the information, I said, Lord, I buy the roses whatever they cost. Because I hated myself to be so greedy, or how you call it? Stingy, whatever the word is, it's a bad word. Yes? It's the root of all evil. You don't want to give. So I promised I will buy the things. But thanks God, God knows how to do economy. My wife just a few minutes later called. I was still in that conversation, and I take the calls from my wife no matter what happens, because that's priority. That's always emergency calls. So I take the call, and she says, honey, I found a nice rose bush, and can I buy it for our anniversary? Now the rose bush costs only 40 euro. I must understand. It's not 120, so what do I say? Yes. Of course, yes. So I say, Lord, you're good. You changed my heart, and you still do economy, because He knows how to do it well. Isn't that nice? So I got my lesson. I never forget it. Now I have to do this lady. She must swallow again. She's young. She's 2 years married. So what do I tell her? Because she says, my husband loves money more than me. Is that an information? Any here that has a husband? That don't raise your hand. I said, yes, he must be, he wants security, so he needs to govern the family. But I said to her, I said, look, it's only 2 years. Give him a few years more chance to learn how to love. But until he learns, you help him. You just smile when you see him. You just go to God with all your heart burden, and you get the power from there, and you will help your husband to just be happy. Because how do you look to your husband when you know he is loving money more than you? How do you look to him?
Not happy.
So he sees that face, and he can read it. Can he read it? Yes, he can read it. We can read that. And he responds how? Selfish or loving? Selfish. He is disabled. He gets nervous. This lady is never satisfied with anything. Is it? And so, men are not very strong, and so I told her, help your husband. Do something about it. So put a face on every morning of a loving wife. And then your swallow will go well. You will eat well. And I met her a few months later, and she said it worked. So Why was she wanting to kill herself? Why could she not swallow anymore? Because she wanted to be loved. And if you want to be loved and the other doesn't love you, you stop loving. And who has the damage? You. Because the law of life will never change. You see, when we are in relationship, if this is me, and this is my mother or my husband or my wife or my brother or my sister or my dog, whoever it is, why do I have these relationships? For the purpose to love them, to give them something? Or do I have them that they should love me, to be loved, that is, receive love? So why do I have the human relationships? What's the purpose? Why did the lady go into this young man? She was in North Germany and she comes down, she moves in the south. Why is she coming into the south? Because she wants to get rid of her love? Or because she wants to be loved? How do we know that she wants to be loved?
Because when he stopped loving her,
Exactly. So in a moment, you see, as long as you're not having any obstruction to love someone, if her husband would be always faithful, would she ever had an issue to not love him? No. So she would never see that she's in bondage to him, because she would just furtherly give love. And as long as you give, your body will be fine. But now she gets to know what he's doing. He is betraying her, and she stops loving him. And by stopping loving him, who has the damage? Her body. Because we have not understood that the law of life requires certain things. And that is, have we understood that we need to breathe to exist? Yes. And we have to breathe what? Our oxygen. Good thing. Have we understood that we have to eat and drink the right food, the right elements? Have we understood that? Yes, there is no question. Have we understood that we need to have rest to be healthy? Yes. Have we understood that we need the sunshine? Yes. But have we understood that we need to love our enemy to be healthy? Have we? No. And we are Christians. You see? That's something so strange. I had to discover, and the Lord had to show it to me in front of my eyes, that people get mostly sick because they cannot love anymore. They cannot think lovingly, because we haven't forgotten that the law of life, or how we will see the 10 Commandments, what do they say to us as Christians? You should love your neighbor self. What does that mean? As long as he is faithful. No? As long as he's not beating me up. As long as he's not lying to me. That's the law? No, the law says there is no quality for your neighbor. No quality. If you cannot love him, you die. And we haven't understood that as Christians until... You know, we put so much emphasis on food. And yes, food has its place. But I would like to switch the emphasis in health. I would like that the emphasis in health should be first love and then food. Because that's the right order. And we have switched the order. We have not even understood that the incapacity of loving an unloving person is wrong, is healthfully destroying your body. Because we have never analyzed it. Because we speak, like I said last night, about emotions, and emotions are something that is physical. We have not understood that it is a demand for healthy living to be a loving person to those who are not worthy for it. Then you are free. But if you cannot love one person, the devil proves that you are in bondage. Because you look to the situation and say, they need to love me. So does anyone need to love you? Now, even God, thank you for that intervention. Even God's action of love will not satisfy your needs. You see, Christians are also stupefied by the same idea. They say, okay, I don't need the love of my husband because I have the love of God. It will never heal you. Because God made it so that you should love your husband. That's the law. It does not say, the law doesn't say God must do something for you. The law only says you must do something for your neighbors. So Christians are very betrayed because they haven't seen what love and how that functions. They come to church, they do all the outward things, but when the real thing hits you, you understand that something in your heart does not fit and you are in bondage. Not because you want, because you haven't yet realized that situation. You haven't yet realized it. So that's why let's see the law. I want to show you what is the definition of being a prisoner. The error that we believe leads us into bondage. And the bondage says, let's formulate it in English. I am dependent for love on the deeds, the acts, and existence of others. That is the definition of the bondage. Why would a lady, when her husband dies after 50 years of marriage, get into a deep mourning and into terrible disease? I could observe that the reason why we get into mourning, why we get into trouble, is because we think that our life is bound to the life of other humans. Can that be? Now our reason tells us that. Is the mother's life bound on the child? No. But how reacts the mother when the child dies? Like it's her life. Yes? And if she comes then back, I have a story of a couple. They're also Christians. And it happened 17 years ago when their child with, I think, 7 months passed away. And it was fantastic to see the father got a right eye issue a few years ago, 5 years ago, I think. And then the right eye starts to get weaker and weaker. And then a little bit starts also the left eyes, because you know the nerves cross there from each side. And that fits very well to the way he thinks back to the kid. His wife, and this is nice when you have families and you can check the diseases of the families. His wife gets a brain tumor on a side, because it's left hand on the left side of her brain. And the tumor is not malignant, but he's surgeryed and he recurs for 3 times. He comes back 3 times, and she needs 3 times to be surgered on her brain. Until she makes up her mind. She thinks today differently than the husband about the loss of the child. The husband's disease goes progressive forward. Hers stopped. Can anyone explain why that brain tumor stopped to come back? After 3 times it comes up? Yeah, it was a benign tumor. Yes. I mean, the stories, when we don't know how the things function, we never know why things come, where they come, and how they come. But they come because they think in their subconscious way of thinking. This is my child, and my life is dependent on the existence of this child. Is it voluntarily? No. It is because in our hearts, and when we see from tomorrow night, when we see how the heart is functioning, we will see that the deception is not a conscious deception. It's not a choice. It is something that occurs without we having a choice. Until we see it, then we can get free. Before we don't see, we are in bondage. We cannot get free because we deceive ourselves. Our heart is so deceitful that it says you're free. And thank God, through disease and through stories and through difficulties, man and woman can understand, oh, I am doing something to myself without I want to, because I am having an error that thinketh my life is dependent on the life of my wife. That thinks that my life is dependent on my mother. That I think that my life is dependent on a dog. You know, the animals are the same there. It's very hard to get rid of animals when you love them. They turn when they are, because it's a thing. So the deception is we think that what others do or others' existence is our existence bound to. And this comes only by the error. Because the truth, and I will show you the truth. Here I have a PowerPoint presentation. This should come at the end, but however it is. The principles of individuality. And I want to read it. Each individual can only meet the needs himself. Plants or trees, the need for the plants need to be brought close to the plant so they can take them and protect them and bring fruit. So I saw this morning some people watering their plants. Why? Because the plant cannot go to the water. Yes? But it needs the water. And I saw in the gardening that said that it didn't rain for 2 months, and so everything is dry, but they need water. So I bring the water close to them, and then the plant takes the water. But can I take the water for the plant? No. You only can do something to bring that close to them. But how it is in humans and animals, because they have a spirit, they have a responsibility. They must go themselves to seek for their needs. If you have no water, what do? You go find them. You go and dig a hole, or you go somewhere. You go for it. If not, you die. And the same thing, the other animals do it. When they have no water, they go. When they have no warmth, they fly long distance to get their needs. So they must go themselves to seek for their needs, take to process them, and then to fulfill the purpose of their life. So God made us as individual. None of us is bound to each other in the fulfilling our needs. None of us. There is, howbeit, we will see in children a time of not of exception where the child needs his mother, because that's the source. But speaking, even there, the child must fulfill its need himself. So, no one else can take care to meet his basic needs. To love, to breathe, to drink, to eat, to sleep, exposing to sunlight can be done only by the individual himself. But this is a law. Because it is saying the same thing that I shared before. Only the individual can take and give. Can you ever eat for your child? No. So the child must eat for himself. You can do nothing if the child doesn't eat anymore. Can you? So we need to understand the law and the principles of individuality. Only you can satisfy the needs. Because God never made it possible that one can bear responsibility for the other. There is never ever a possibility. That would be an unrighteous thing if someone would take responsibility for you. That's why the Bible is very clear on that. Never be, how we call this, the one that puts himself a surety for others. What's the name in the at the bank when you have to a guarantee or what? Bond. You know what I mean. You can never guarantee that your brother will pay the money, would he? If you do it, you get into trouble. Because you cannot take responsibility for you. So we must know this. God made us all responsible as individuals. And we will look to the law that is take to give. No one can take in your case. No one can sleep for you. No one can think for you. And I cannot emphasize it enough so that we can understand it. So our main issues in life come because we think others are responsible for what we suffer. Yes? Or others are responsible for what is making us sick, to say better. Because we can suffer. Jesus came on this earth and he was suffering, but he never suffered for himself, so he never got sick. And I'm speaking only on the sickness level of suffering. I don't want to enter into the whole picture of suffering. But I know this body can only get sick either when something else hurts him or that I hurt him myself. And I found in the most cases of all my patients, analyzing their life, that they are destroying themselves, believing a lie, thinking when the husband does betray me, he makes me a hurting. He wounds me. Does he wound me? But we all believe it. And we can now say with reason, he doesn't do it. But when it happens, we have no choice. We will see it ourselves. So, let us understand this. We must have a free spirit to have a healthy body. And Job was a very good example of a free spirit. If he would have had a spirit in bondage after he lost how much of his kids? All the animals, all the servants. Only one remained to come to tell him the things. And how was he thinking? He said, naked I came, naked I go. God gave, God took. The name of the Lord shall be praised. Yes, he had a great suffering because what has happened, but it was not a selfish one. He was a person that did and teared his garment in pieces, not as one in bondage, but as one that expressed his suffering. And he did not get sick because he knew that his life was not bound to any human except to God. And that's where we have to go. He's a very nice picture. He would never have gone sick, but then the devil wanted to prove that he might curse God when he gets sick, but he did not do that either. So let us conclude. We have a deception in our spirit that we think is true. And the deception is subconscious. We think other people owe us respect. We think other people owe us love. We think other people owe us to be polite. We think other people owe us their faithfulness. And all this owing is a deception. No one owes you nothing. Only you owe others to love them. Because that's how you fulfill your needs. When you take to give. So we will go further and more deep tomorrow night. We have 4 more nights, and I hope we'll getting also to the root of understanding all this and how to change, to become really free. So that when we get into difficulties, we will not make ourselves sick because we are unable to love the unloving. That's what happens. So, any questions? So you all need no love anymore. I mean, not to be loved anymore. That's good. That's good if reason helps us. Reason must help us in this matter because our heart will fail us. Our heart will betray us. That we think others are owing us their love.